Ladies and gentlemen, I have enjoyed the evening immensely. The actors have given a delightful rendering of a charming play, and your own appreciation has been most intelligent. I congratulate you on the success of your performance, which persuades me that you think almost as highly of this play as I do myself.
Gentlemen, I have enjoyed this evening immensely. The actors have given a charming rendering of a delightful play. And your appreciation has been most intelligent. I congratulate you on the success of your performance, which proves to me that you think almost as highly of the play as I do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have enjoyed this evening immensely. The actors have given us a charming rendering of a delightful play, and your appreciation has been most intelligent. I congratulate you on the great success of your performance, which persuades me that you think almost as highly of this play as I do myself.
Hello, and thank you for choosing to listen to this video essay on Oscar Wilde. I want to talk about Oscar Wilde's voice and the existence of an old wax cylinder recording that is claimed to be of Wilde's voice. I also want to begin by acknowledging the fact that the old wax cylinder recording in question has been widely debunked as inauthentic. Researchers at the British Library declared the recording a fake. This is a quote taken from the Guardian newspaper in the year 2000 about the recording. By studying surface noise and background clicks of the recording, supposedly made on a wax cylinder from which an acetate disc was copied, library experts Peter Copeland and Jonathan Vickers showed it was created at a speed incompatible with devices of the era. Such machines operated at 120 revolutions per minute. However, the Wilde recording suggests a 78 revolution per minute machine. But as somebody who is fascinated by Oscar Wilde, perhaps I want to believe the recording is genuine, so that is why I want to examine this topic. But first, let's establish who Oscar Wilde was. An Irishman who made his name in England, Oscar Wilde was a much-loved writer and wit in his lifetime until his public disgrace at the hands of the British courts, who sentenced Wilde to 2 years hard labour in prison for being a homosexual. Born into a wealthy family in Dublin, educated at Portora Private School, Trinity College Dublin, and Oxford, Oscar Wilde enjoyed a comfortable upper-class life. But years later, after achieving international fame for his writing and personality, his prison sentence of 2 years hard labour was effectively a death sentence. The hard labour and prison conditions caused Wilde's health to greatly deteriorate, and he died not long after his release from prison, poor and outcast at the age of 46. Since his death, Wilde has become a world-renowned figure, and his image and name is immediately recognisable, perhaps even more so than his work. During his life, Oscar Wilde arguably became one of the first real celebrities, but now it is perhaps fair to say that in terms of fame, Wilde as an icon has succeeded Wilde as a man and as a writer. Oscar Wilde has now mostly been reduced to his epigrams, such as "The truth is rarely pure and never simple," and "The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about." In his lifetime, and now again, Oscar Wilde was famous for many things, like his sharp wit, eccentricities, intellect, and his playful mastery of language. But Wilde's ability to be the centre of attention and win the affections of those he spoke to with the art of conversation was also well known. After leaving Oxford and moving to London, long before his infamy as a writer, he began to make a name for himself as a guest at dinner parties. Wilde once remarked that a man who can dominate a London dinner table can dominate the world. And at one such dinner party, a guest asked, "What has he done, this young man, that one meets him everywhere? Oh yes, he talks well, but what has he done? He has written nothing. He does not sing, or paint, or act. He does nothing but talk. I do not understand." Another guest at a London dinner party once told Wilde, "I wish I could talk like you. I'd keep my mouth shut and claim it as a virtue." To which Wilde replied, that would be selfish. I could deny myself the pleasure of talking, but not others the pleasure of listening. To put it simply, Wilde was a known talker, and a skilled one at that. Lily Langtry, a close friend and muse of Wilde's, once said that he had one of the most alluring voices that I have ever listened to, round and soft and full of variety and expression. The American poet Walt Whitman also remarked on Wilde's English society drawl, but his enunciation is better than I have ever heard in a young Englishman or Irishman before. So it would seem obvious from this evidence that Wilde had a nice voice. But is there any hard evidence to prove this? That is what I want to examine. A voice recording exists of a man claimed to be Oscar Wilde reading a poem of Oscar Wilde's. But before we go any further, let's listen to the audio. Be sure to listen closely because the quality of the audio is fairly poor.
Burning, winding, shooty life, and his groove got no name. No growth of foolish terror appeased the windy sky. The man had killed the thing he loved, and so he had to die.
Now, is there an argument to be made about the authenticity of this recording? Before we examine that, let's establish some basic facts about the recording. The poem that is being read is The Ballad of Reading Gaol. Oscar Wilde wrote the poem in France in 1897 after his release from prison. The entire poem is not being read in this recording. Only the third last and second last stanzas are. It was possible to record voices at this time in history. I took this information from the Phonograph Cylinder Wikipedia page. Here is a quote. Both the gramophone and Edison's perfected phonograph were commercialized in 1888. Beginning in 1889, pre-recorded wax cylinders were marketed. These have professionally made recordings of songs, instrumental music, or humorous monologues in their grooves. Now, here is a recording made on one such cylinder from the time. Listen out for the quality of the audio. Now here's the Wilde recording again. And here is a clip from the sample audio. Can you hear any similarities? Significantly, Oscar Wilde's son, Vyvyan Holland, who had to change his name after Wilde's prison sentence, and who died in 1967 at the age of 80, did listen to the tape. At one point he claimed that, yes, it was his father speaking, but finally he claimed that it was not his father speaking. But Holland listened to the tape in the 1960s, and he had last seen his father in 1895, when he was a young child. However, it must be acknowledged that Holland would know the voice of his own father better than anyone else alive in the 1960s, and it seems like a voice that you would remember. With regards to the recording itself, what confuses me is that I found two versions of the recording online. The version I've just played and another one that sounds higher in pitch but similar in rhythm. They are different recordings though, because the reciter in the second audio recites more words than the reciter in the first recording.
The Ballad of Reading Gaol, Part 6. In Reading Jail, by Reading Town, there is a pit of shame. In it lies a wretched man, eaten by feet of flame. In a burning, winding sheet he lies, and his grave has got no name. And there, till Christ calls forth the dead, in silence let him lie. No need to waste the foolish tear, or heed the windy sigh. The man had killed the things he loved, and so he had to die. And all men kill the things they love, by all let this be heard.
Also, in an article titled The Voice of Oscar Wilde, an Investigation, written by Jonathan Vickers and Peter Copeland in 1987, it is claimed that in the Wilde voice recording, at the close of the poem, the reciter gives his name in a studied, high-pitched and languorous voice. Oscar Wilde. I have not heard this version and cannot find a version of the recording where this line is included. I would like to hear it. Thus, I'm not sure which recording is the one that is considered to be Wilde's voice. In their article arguing against the recording's authenticity, Vickers and Copeland provide many convincing arguments, like the surface noise of the recording having a different frequency spectrum from the voice. They also investigate various technical aspects of the recording and conclude that there is no way the recording can be of Oscar Wilde's voice. Their analysis of the recording and the many reasons for its inauthenticity is very detailed. Their article examines the technical components of the recording as well as the history of its existence in far greater detail than I'm currently doing, so I would recommend reading their article if this topic interests you. It is a fascinating read and I have put a link to the article below this video. With regards to the history of this recording, the story goes that the recording was made at the 1900 Paris Expo. Here is a quote about the 1900 Paris Expo from Wikipedia. The Exposition Universelle was a world's fair held in Paris from the 14th of April to the 12th of November 1900 to celebrate the achievements of the past century and to accelerate development into the next. Employees of Thomas Edison were present and participating in the exhibition and showing off their phonograph recording device. It is claimed Wilde visited the expo and was spotted by employees of Thomas Edison, who asked him to make a recording on their phonograph device. We know that Wilde did visit the expo because he wrote a letter to his close friend and confidant Robbie Ross, in which he told Ross about visiting the expo with his publisher Leonard Smithers. Wilde wrote that, "Smithers appeared here with his new mistress. She is quite clean and charmingly dressed. We went to the exhibition one night." Now, curveball here, but a video also exists claiming to show Oscar Wilde attending the 1900 Paris Expo, but it is impossible to know from the video if it is actually Wilde caught on camera. The person in question could be anyone. Here it is, but again, it is impossible to conclude that this is actually Oscar Wilde, or anyone else for that matter. So we're supposed to be looking out for this guy in the white. I mean, the quality of the video is so poor that you can barely make anything out anyway. And then where is he? He's supposed to be coming up on the left here, yeah. That white figure. Impossible to tell. So, I mean, you can't draw anything from this video. It's just somebody wearing white. Returning to Vyvyan Holland, Wilde's son, what I found interesting is that a video of Vyvyan Holland being interviewed on television in the 1960s is available on YouTube. Here is a clip from it.
I was here in 1907. I had come over from England to shoot moose in Canada. I went over to Vancouver to Seattle, San Francisco, and then San Francisco back to New York.
Now listen to a clip from the Wilde recording again.
In Reading Jail, by Reading Town, there is a pit of shame.
Now here is Vyvyan Holland again.
I was here in 1907. I'd come over from England to shoot moose in Canada.
Now listen to the audio of both recordings played one after another.
I was here in 1907. I'd come over from England to shoot moose in Canada.
It is interesting and merely just a bit of fun to compare the two voices, but no positive conclusions can be drawn from that exercise. Really, it is difficult to conclude that the recording of Wilde's voice is authentic. It must be acknowledged that the arguments made against the recording's authenticity, chiefly by Jonathan Vickers and Peter Copeland, are stronger than the theories for. Perhaps every admirer of Wilde would love this recording to be genuine, and maybe that is why this recording's authenticity is still debated by some, because we would all certainly love to have heard Wilde speak for ourselves. However, it is too difficult to make an argument for the authenticity of this recording, and so we must continue to wonder what Oscar Wilde as a person sounded like when speaking.
Come on, Mr. Wilde, we're running out of conversation.
As long as we're not running out of wine. You know, gentlemen, in the past few years, I've made a remarkable discovery.
What's that, Oscar?
Alcohol, if taken in sufficient quantities, produces all the effects of intoxication.
I don't go along with the ordinary ways of thinking.
Then we are exactly alike. Another glass of brandy. I find that alcohol taken in sufficient quantities can produce all the effects of drunkenness.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. Thank you.